I threw my bags into the back of the car as I raced to the back seat. "Are we going to go yet?" I asked. The car door slammed shut while the engine started. It was toward the end of the warm, tepid month of August in 2010. My dad and I were going camping near Chicago. I was in the car tapping on my Nintendo DS. I was so excited to get out of the 1-hour car ride. Camping by Eric. The second we backed into our campsite, I zipped out the car door before it was at a complete stop. The site had small, chalky white rocks as a driveway, a picnic bench, a fire pit, and an awesome background of trees and wildlife. My dad and I set up our red and gray tent. We pounded the stakes into the soft, grassy ground. After unpacking our load, we switched turns into the tent, getting our swimsuits on. We took off biking over to the warm, sandy beach. Turning this way and that way, we were dead lost. With the steaming hot, glowing sun beating down on us, I hid behind a dumpster for shade. Nevertheless, we still couldn't find our way. Finally, my dad pulled out a map, and we found the right way to go, and we were off. Although I could feel the cool, windy breeze rushing into my face, I raced to the beach, panting like a dog as my bike tire swerved on the black pavement road. We had finally reached the beach, so I darted towards the water. The cool water made me want to live in there. It felt so good. My dad walked in, following after me, holding a frisbee in his left hand. We tossed the frisbee for a while and took off for the long 3-mile bike ride back to our campsite and enjoyed the rest of our day. It's 8 o'clock at night, and we start and light our campfire. We eat marshmallows and s'mores. It was so good. I stretched my arms out at 6:30 in the morning. I woke up from a good night's sleep. The sun had just begun to rise. My dad isn't up yet, so I unzip the tent door and creep out silently. I can see all the dew on the tent and the trees. It's bitter cold outside, but I didn't care. I wish my dad were up so I could eat. I was starving. But at about 7 o'clock, my dad was finally up. We eat breakfast and get ready for the rest of our day. We eventually went fishing. We took our bikes again, but it was really tiring. We went early morning because it's cold and quiet. When we arrived, we stepped onto the brown, wooden, creaky fishing pier. We pulled out our lines as well as set up our bait. We cast out our lines. They silently plopped into the calm water. When we started to slowly reel in, we could see small bluegill fish right next to the dock. We didn't want to catch them because they were too small. We couldn't catch anything at all, so we grabbed our gear and went over to the boat launch, which was also a fishing area. My dad caught a few, but I could only catch 1 or 2. My dad caught a 6-inch sunfish. He pretended to kiss it. It's kind of weird. I was so impatient that I wanted to dive into the water and grab a fish with my bare hands. My dad went back over to the fishing pier to grab our bikes, but I continued fishing. I waited and waited and waited with my line full of slack until my line went perfectly straight. I got a bite. I yanked and cranked, shouting for my dad. He raced over on my bike. It looked so small on him. I jerked up the fish just as he slammed the brakes and hopped off the bike. I had caught a smallmouth bass. It was green and slippery. The bass was about 11 inches long. It was my very first bass. I could see the sharp silver hook pierced into its cheek. My dad took a picture of the bass and I looked at it once more and tossed it back into the water. Splash. We fished for a little bit more, but I still couldn't believe I caught my very first bass.